What's going on, people? It's Thursday, October 16th, 2025. And, you know what I mean? I wanted to make a quick video and just talk about some things. Today, got up this morning, took the wife to work. And I'm actually outside the spot, gonna get some breakfast, before I start my day. And I was just like thinking to myself, like, the journey, the journey of life, this year was kind of a big year for me, in a way that, I was able to accomplish certain things that I, had put on, the back burner for a little while, and I was able to accomplish them. I was able to, get some goals, knocked out the park, and in order to align myself in a better position, financially, living on the East Coast, especially in the Northeast, it's not cheap out here. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just trying to put myself in a better financial position, for me and for my family, so we can, make the moves that we need to make and we want to make, so we can, enjoy the fruits of our labor. I think Lil Wayne said it best. He said he enjoys the fruits of his labor while they're still ripe, and that's what I want to do. A lot of people focus on, working and, getting those 25, 30 years in, and, getting that retirement and, living off that retirement. And I mean, that's a blessing, you know what I'm saying? To be working for a company like that and get those, retirement perks, but, you're not promised tomorrow. So I don't want to, put all my eggs in that basket. You know what I'm saying? I want to enjoy life. You know what I'm saying? And I want to work and, take care, what I need to take care of, but like, enjoy my fruits, while they're still ripe. And that was a big part of 2025 for me, was pushing myself and putting myself in uncomfortable positions in order to get to comfortable positions. So I'm thankful for that. It wasn't easy. A lot of times I wanted to, quit, like I was like, man, am I doing it right? Like, am I even gonna, be able to, acquire what I need to acquire in order to put myself in a better financial, position? And, by the grace of God, man, I was able to accomplish it. And I was like, I blew myself away. I was like, wow, a lot of times, we overthink and we overanalyze, and, it's so easy to, psych yourself out, but, I like to say that I'm only in competition with myself. I'm just trying to be better than I was last year. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a hater. I'm a congratulator. When I hear my friends doing big things and accomplishing their goals and making moves, to better, place them and their families in a better financial situation, I salute that. You know what I'm saying? Because these are guys I grew up with. We grew up in, 2-bedroom apartments, 3-bedroom apartments, brick buildings. You know what I'm saying? And to now see guys that I grew up with owning houses, and going to school and acquiring licenses, and so that they can better I guess better support their families. You know what I'm saying? I salute that, and I love that, and I love to see my guys win. You know what I'm saying? And I'm always praying for them, for their families. You know what I'm saying? And I love that, man. You know what I'm saying? Life is precious, man. And I wasted, some time, in certain, places doing certain things that I look back now, I'm like, man, I wish I was, you know, I wish I was where I'm at now back then. You know what I mean? But it's all a part of the journey. You know what I'm saying? So I get it, you know. But where I'm at in life, man, it's I don't got time, I feel like, to slow down, because my life came to a halt, you know what I'm saying, in like late 2020. And this is the story. So in 2020, pandemic year, and I was working for another company, and great job, great benefits. It was probably the funnest, job that I had. And pandemic came in, and like so many, some people lost their jobs, some people were pushed out of their jobs, some people had to leave their jobs, and I was kind of like a PCA worker for my mom, and my mom was a very delicate, person with her immunity. You know what I'm saying? She didn't have the strongest immunity. So when the pandemic hit, I was very nervous for my mom. So late December, we had just moved into our new place. We were on our way to go get dinner, and in a moment, my whole life changed. And unfortunately, I was involved in an accident. That's why you always see me with the shades on. And so it was crazy. It was honestly the craziest thing that ever happened in my life. I was 37 years at the time. I was 37 years old, and I was driving, and my wife at the time, we were engaged, and we were on our way to go get some dinner, and I decided to go up a street that I don't normally travel on, and for whatever reason, I was like, hey, look, we're gonna go get this food, and I'll just go this way, and in retrospect, looking back at it, if I would have just went the normal route, I would have avoided that whole situation. And but I decided to go a different route, and a brick was thrown through my windshield, and from another moving vehicle. An SUV flew by me at a high rate of speed. As quick as you blink is as quick as I got hit. This brick came through my windshield like a hot knife through butter. I never seen it coming because I had my visor down. So it smacked the visor. I had my hat on, and I fitted, and it. Thank God that with the visor down and with the fitted down, I think it broke some of the speed of the brick, but it still smacked me in the face, and broke my nose, shattered my cheekbone, and broke my jaw simultaneously. I never lost consciousness. I was driving. I managed to pull over. I lost complete vision in my right eye, and I had to wait for the EMTs. And it sucks when the fire department gets there before the EMTs, and you're like, oh my God, where's the ambulance, man? I gotta get to the hospital. Like, I knew I was in bad shape. And my wife, she really stepped in to that situation, and she didn't panic, she didn't scream, she wasn't crying or anything like that. She took off her hoodie and she gave it to me, and she told me, apply pressure to your face because you're bleeding. And I was like, all right. And I just knew that I got to remain calm, because the more I start to lose it, the more I'm gonna bleed. And I didn't know how bad I was hurt, but I knew I was really hurt, and I knew I was bleeding. And the EMTs came, and when he came and they opened up my door and they asked me how I was doing, I said I didn't know. I was holding my face at the time. And they said, can you move your hand? And when I moved my hand, he was like, nope, put it back. So I put my hand back, and I managed, by the grace of God, to walk out of the car and walk to the ambulance. That's God, I promise you. That wasn't me. And then they had a team waiting for me in the emergency room. And I remember everything. I remember the ride. I remember going into the emergency room. I remember them pulling glass from my face. Pieces of the windshield that like broke was embedded in my face, and they were pulling out glass from my face. And I remember the doctor was like, "I'm so sorry, but I got to stitch you up. You got a hole in the side of your face." And I was like, do what you got to do, man. Like, I'm here, So this phone keeps like tilting. I'm trying not to get it to. Hold on a second. I'm gonna take the charger off because I gotta charge it. So, oops, almost lost you guys. All right, cool, we back. So, I'm in the emergency room. They're stitching me up, and I remember, the nurse was like, "Are you hurt anywhere else?" And I go, "No, it's just my face." And she's like, "Are you sure?" I go, "Yeah." And I guess their procedure is they got to check you everywhere. So she ended up cutting off my favorite pair of Levi jeans, and I was really sad, at that moment, because I was like, "Damn, I really like these jeans." And she was like, "Are you on any medication? Do you take anything?" And I don't take any medication, thank God. You know what I'm saying? Besides like allergy medicine seasonally, you know what I'm saying? Thank God. And she was like, "I'm gonna give you something for the pain." I don't know what she gave me, man, but all my pain went right out the window. So I ended up spending about 11 days in the hospital. I lost 18 pounds in 11 days. I bled so much they found me anemic, and then I had to have plastic surgery done because I had multiple bones broken in my face. So they placed 5 pieces of titanium in my face. Right now I have titanium around my nose, and I'll have that for the rest of my life, and I have a titanium plate that my right eye sits on. I was stitched from the bridge of my nose across my right eye to the side here. You can kind of see it. And for like 2 weeks, and then they took the stitches out. I couldn't open up my right eye for 10 weeks. I remember I didn't know if I was gonna live or die. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know if I had any, internal bleeding. I knew that, I felt like me, you know what I'm saying, when I got to the hospital. Like, I still felt my strength and my energy and stuff like that. I just knew my face was really hurt. And when you go to plastic surgery, man, my first plastic surgery was 11 and a half hours long. And that's a long time, to be sedated. And I remember when I woke up, I was in the ICU. I felt like a truck hit me. You know what I mean? I never felt so weak in my entire life. I was like, what the hell happened? Like, why am I this weak? I wasn't like this when I went to surgery. How am I like this now? And they did a full CAT scan of my brain. I had no brain damage. I had no brain bleeding and no brain swelling. Not me. You know what I'm saying? Not me. All God, I promise you. And I thank God every day, man. I was 37 years old. And I had to have another surgery on January 5th of 2021. That's because I had swelled up pretty bad, and they were like, "Yeah, we got to go back in. We got to reface the plate." Now, my plastic surgeon was amazing. The plastic surgeon team, amazing. You know what I'm saying? The hospital, they took really good care of me, and I was very thankful. And the bedside manners of my plastic surgeon, she was great, but she didn't tell me everything that was broken. She was just like, "Hey, your cheekbone is broken, and we got to go in there and put a plate," which I'm happy about, because to tell a person that, their nose is broken, their cheekbone is shattered, and their jaw's broken all simultaneously, that's a lot for a person to, digest. But I was able to, come out of that, and I thank God that, that wasn't, my last day here on earth, because I got a lot more life to live, you know what I'm saying? And I got a lot more things I want to accomplish. And also had to have my jaw wired. That was crazy. My jaw was wired for 6 weeks. It was supposed to be for 12. And it's crazy when you can eat whatever you want, and literally like a couple days later I had to be put on a liquid diet, and that sucked, you know what I mean? I was able to be released out of the hospital January 6th of 2021, and my wife picked me up. Our car was like a crime scene, so we couldn't have our car. They had it, like, they took pictures, and you know, the car, I think, was like towed to like some tow yard or something like that. So my wife picked me up in a rental, and you know, just, you know, everything that I went through. I remember I didn't even want to sit in the front seat. I sat in the back seat with my head behind the headrest. I didn't want to look outside. There was a lot of trauma, you know, that I went through, you know, and it was honestly the craziest time of my life, you know, and I had to take a year out of work, you know, because I had to have, you know, a couple more surgeries to remove some of the metal plates once bones started to heal and things of that nature. So it sucked, you know what I'm saying? But it gave me more of appreciation for life. You know, I look at the world in a different color, you know what I'm saying? Because every day you wake up, it's a blessing. It honest to God is. You know, there's people that didn't wake up today. Yesterday was their last day, you know. And I thank God, you know what I mean, that I'm here and that I was able to, you know, live through what I went through in order to give this testimony. I give God all the glory, you know what I'm saying? I thank the Lord Jesus Christ every day, you know, because I know if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be here, you know. The things I seen, you know, the way God moved in my life was just tremendous. I remember that after they took out the metal plates, because I had metal plates across my cheekbone, they said, they did a full x-ray, and I remember the x-ray tech told my surgeon, she goes, his bones in his face healed so well we could barely see the fracture lines. And my cheekbone was shattered, she told me. And she goes, I've never seen anybody heal the way you heal. She's been doing this for like over 20 years. She goes, there's ways that the body heals that we can explain, and then there's ways that the body heals that we can't explain. And she told me straight to my face, she goes, you're healing extraordinary. I go, that's not me, that's God, I promise you. I'm just here for the ride, you know? And, you know, with my jaw being wired for 6 weeks when it was supposed to be for 12, you know, the day that they were gonna unwire my jaw and they were gonna place rubber bands in, I had 6 screws placed in certain areas. It's where they wire your jaw shut. And the night before, I remember I felt my mouth open a little, like just open a little. And when I went to go get my jaw unwired, my plastic surgeon was like, can you open your mouth a little? And I opened it just a smidge. She goes, that's not supposed to happen. Because when they wire your jaw shut, they use like instruments, you know what I'm saying? And with her fingertips, she unscrewed 3 of them. And she was like, I kind of felt like she felt like there's something playing here that's beyond her, that's showing her, yeah, you're not going to need to wire his jaw. His jaw is going to heal on its own. And that's exactly what she told me. She was like, well, it looks like your jaw wants to heal on its own, so I'm not going to rubber band you. She goes, but if your jaw does shift, like out of place, you have to come back in and we have to rewire you again. She goes, but it looks like your jaw wants to heal on its own. And I was like, okay. And she was like, well, now you can have soft foods. Now remember, I was on a liquid diet. I lived on Ensure, you know, the vanilla, the chocolate, the strawberry head. um, and that was like my breakfast, my lunch, my dinner, you know. I was making sure that I was getting at least 30 grams of protein, you know, so these bones could heal. And when she was like, you can have soft foods, I was like, I can have soft foods? She was like, yeah. I was like what? She was like, soft. I was like, potatoes? She was like, yeah, like soft, like mashed potatoes. I was like, and I was like, okay. I love eggs, you know what I'm saying, like scrambled eggs, omelets. That I'm a big breakfast guy, you know what I'm saying. Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. And I was like, I can have scrambled eggs? She was like, yeah. I promise you, I went and bought 30 eggs. Like, I bought 30 eggs. I was like, I went and bought boxes of macaroni and cheese. I bought ramen. Like, I was so happy. You know what I'm saying? And it's the little things you know in life you take for granted, you know, until you can't enjoy those things, you know. And oh man, I mean, I couldn't have any crunchy foods because they were like, your bones are still mending, so you can't have any crunchy foods. And I was like, crunchy foods? She's like, yeah, you can't have nothing that you need a crunch on. I was like, so I can't have no chicken? She's like, no, I'm Puerto Rican. I grew up on rice. I grew up chicken, you know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't have rice because it was too small. And she was like, no, you can't chew it. And she was like, yeah, I didn't have rice for like, I swear, like it was like 5 months. And I told her, I was like, you know I'm Puerto Rican, right? I need some rice. She was like, you'll get there. She was very sweet. Absolutely sweet. She was a sweetheart. God bless her. She was so sweet. Very caring, you know, for a surgeon to spend 11.5 hours on your face, you know what I'm saying, and you're a complete stranger, shows the level of dedication, you know what I'm saying, that she has for her practice. And I salute her, like, so much, you know. She did an amazing job. I would show you my eye, but I don't know what happened yesterday, but I woke up and my eye was like bloodshot red, and I had to go see an ophthalmologist, and they gave me like a steroid drop. I had to spend $64 on that. I got insurance, and my insurance is like, I think you got this, so that's nice. So I spent like $64 on these eye drops, and come to find out, I had the same ones in the medicine cabinet in my house. So that was nice. So, yeah, 2020 was crazy. 2021, crazy. My jaw never shifted. I ended up getting the last metal screws pulled out, and I went on a journey of healing, you know what I'm saying, and appreciation, and you know what I mean, just thanking God every day that, you know what I mean, He gave me another one, you know. And now I'm 42, you know, and my 5-year anniversary comes up December 26th of 2025, man, the day after Christmas. That's crazy. You know, I remember in 2020, I was celebrating Christmas, December 25th. And then December 26th, I was being rushed to the hospital. My whole life changed. You know? And it was honestly the wildest time of my life. The eye drops are working, though, on the eye. You know, the eye was red, but now it's getting better. And I'll show you guys on another video, you know what I'm saying, how the eye looks and stuff like that. It sucked though, because like when I got hit, because the cheekbone shattered, you know, there's the eyes, they were, you know, symmetrical, you know, But when the cheekbone shatters, it's basically like the floor where your eye sits on. So when that fell, now it's kind of like, it's slightly like this now. But I went from legally blind in my right eye to right now 5 points away from perfect vision. And I remember that journey. That was crazy because I couldn't open up this eye for 10 weeks. And when I was in the hospital, I asked them, how was my right eye? And they were like, well, we know it's alive. I said, okay. Because I remember the doctor came into my room and he was like, you must have some questions. Mind you, I didn't know if I was going to live or die. I didn't know what was going on with my head, because any trauma to the head, God, concussion or bleeding of the brain or bleed or brain swelling. I didn't want to ask, you know what I'm saying? I was like, man, I'd rather not know, but I felt like I had to, ask that question. So I remember when I sat there and in my room and the doctor, he was there and he was like, so you must have some questions. And I was like, yeah. He goes, ask away. And I was like, are my injuries life-threatening? That was the first thing I asked because, I needed to know in a way. Even though I said I didn't want to know, I was like, oh, man, I'm like, is this going to check me out? And he was like, no. Your injuries aren't life-threatening. He goes, you got a long road ahead of you, but you're relatively a healthy 37-year-old. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah. And I was like, man, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Because I thought, the way I used to, eat and party and stuff like that, I kind of treated myself like I was at an amusement park, But he was like, no, you're lucky you're a relatively healthy 37-year-old and you should make a full recovery. He's like, you got a long road ahead of you, but you should make a full recovery. I was like, look at God, man. And so that was crazy, when they told me that, all right, So that was the biggest weight that I needed to get off. I was like, okay, I'm not going to die from this, and I got a long road ahead of me. All right, well, me, I'm a mountain climber, man. I don't mean that I really climb mountains. I mean, when I got obstacles in front of me, if I got to meet it, I'm going to meet it, and I just knew that, all right, we're going to be on a journey to recovery, and my mindset was just get stronger, get healthier, get better. And that was my mindset for all of 21. And 21 was a hard year too. I had some passings in my family, I got married in 21, which was a blessing, and my honeymoon, my eye opened up for the first time. We were at Guy Fieri's restaurant in Foxwoods, and I remember I was having I don't know, something soft because I know I could eat soft foods, and I remember my eye, I felt it open up. I had an eye patch on, and I felt when the eye just opened for the first time. And shout out to the people at Foxwoods, man. They gave us a beautiful suite on the 19th floor. It was lit. I was like, this is nice. Look at this. This is real nice. And they hooked us up, and I remember when I went to the bathroom and I took the eye patch off and I could see that my eye opened, and my wife was like, oh my God, I could see your eye. And I was like, I could see you. She was like, you could see me? I go, yeah. It was very watery, but I could see her. And then, the eye got stronger, and I remember I ended up going to the eye doctor, and that's when they told me my vision was 2200 in the right eye, which was legally blind. And then I was like, okay. They were like, but you have a lot of inflammation, you got a lot of swelling, you got a lot of scar tissue, so we gotta wait till you heal more, and the more you heal, the better your vision will get. And I was like, awesome, okay. And that's exactly what happened. I got better, I got stronger, I started healing. When I went back, I went from 2200 to 2070, and they told me, man, you jumped some hurdles. And I go, well, that's not me, that's God, I promise you. And they were like, keep up the good work. And I was like, okay. And then Went back a little while later, maybe a couple months later, and I went from 2070 to 2050 in the vision. So the higher the number, the worse your vision gets, and the lower the number, the better your vision gets. So from 2200 to 2070 to 2050 to 2040 to 2030, down to 2025, and they couldn't believe it. I remember they went and got the doctor, and he came in and he goes, how's his vision? She goes, the girl was giving me the eye test. She goes, I got him as far down as 2025. And he looked at her with like this crazy look on his face. He's like, no way. She's like, yeah. And I remember when I went and talked to my plastic surgeon and I told her the good news about how well my eye's doing. She goes, you know, we were getting ready to fit you with a prosthetic eye. I go, what? She goes, yeah, we were getting ready to fit you with a prosthetic eye. I was like, are you serious? She goes, yeah. She goes, you had so much nerve damage and tissue damage to the right side of your face that you're not supposed to be able to see out that eye, blink, or move it. And the fact that you can do all three, we can't explain it. And I told her, whatever you can't explain, God does all day, every day. You know? He works in the impossible, I promise you that. And, you know, she witnessed it. She seen it, you know? And now, you know, I'm going on 5 years. It took me a while to, you know, to tell this story. I wish I would have told it, you know, sooner. But there was just a lot that happened, you know? A lot that happened. And between me recovering, funerals, man, I lost 3 loved ones in 2021. Both my grandparents and an uncle who was like a second dad to me, you know. So that was a really tough year, you know. And then you know, 23 or something like that, I think in 22, I think, or 23, I had another uncle pass, and he was my godfather, and I love that guy, you know what I mean? Great guy, you know. And I think there was like a year that we didn't have any passings, and then just last year in November, my mom went to be with the Lord, you know. My mom passed, and that was crazy, you know. My dad had passed when I was 30 years old in 2013, and that was crazy. Like, my world flipped upside down. Like, he was my Superman, you know what I'm saying? And like, him passing at that age when I just had turned 30, and he was only 54, you know. He was a young guy, man, you know. I felt like he had way more to live, you know. That's why it's so important to take care of yourself, man. Eating right and exercising, it's so important, especially as you get older, you know. And but he had a genetic issue, you know, underlying health issues, you know. That sucked, man, you know. So, I mean, these last 5 years have been a roller coaster of emotions, you know, for me and for my family. And I just thank God that, you know, through the adversities that I've been faced with and the challenges I've been faced with, I've always had this mindset, you know what I mean, go hard or go home, you know. And I've always pushed, you know. I pushed through the pain, I pushed through the suffering. I push because I refuse to lose, you know. And that's just like, I don't know. I have that, and I'm not patting myself on the back, and I'm not, you know, boasting myself up, you know what I'm saying? That's my mindset. I refuse to lose when I'm faced with adversity, man. And I look at it as a challenge, like, okay, these are the cards I'm dealt with. Well, then, you know what I mean, I'm gonna try to win, you know what I'm saying? and I'm gonna give it my all, and I'm not gonna take anything laying down. You know what I'm saying? I remember I heard Sylvester Stallone say in a clip, life will beat you down in your socks, but it's not about how hard you get hit, but how many times you get back up. And that's facts, because life will beat you down. You know what I'm saying? But as many hits as I've been hit with, and I've been hit with some hits, man, I promise you, I get back up and I keep pushing and I keep moving, you know. And you know, that's just the way, you know, I look at things. I feel like that's the way I'm built. You know. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in, listening to my story, you know. And that's also how I came up with, you know, with this whole podcast thing that I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I came up with Dare to Be Great. Because that's what I'm trying to do, man. You know, every day I'm daring myself to be great, you know, and be better than I was last year, you know, last month, last week. You know what I'm saying? Just be better, be stronger, you know, and accomplish these goals, you know what I'm saying, that I want to accomplish. And, you know, from here, I just, you know, just want to elevate, you know what I'm saying? Elevate not only myself, elevate, you know, my surroundings, you know. And if you hear my story and, you know, and it motivates you, you know, I give God all the glory first and foremost. You know, this is not mine. This is His, you know. He gave me this testimony. I had a nurse tell me in the hospital, in order for you to have a testimony, you got to have a test. And God gave you your test. And now you have your testimony. And I was like, yeah, I do. You know? Yes, I do. So, I appreciate y'all again. Thank you so much. Things are going to get better with the whole, like, podcasting thing, man. I'm working on some things, and I got some stories, man. This was a story, though, that I needed to get out there, because it's my story, you know what I mean? It's the backstory of how I came up with Dare to Be Great, and, you know, reasons why, you know, I wear the shades and stuff like that. And I will, you know, once the eye clears up and gets better, I'm going to take off my shades and show you, you know, how pretty I am. And, yeah, man, you guys, you know what I mean, have a blessed day. Take care. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm going to make another one, you know. I gotta be, you know, proactive with this thing. I'll be taking breaks because, you know, life be lifing. But I definitely want to do more videos. And please like, share, and leave comments, man. I read the comments. I promise you I do. And again, I appreciate you guys. And we'll talk soon. Peace.